Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to Kung Fu Film Focus for this Monday, January 12th, 2026. This is the first Kung Fu Film Focus of the year, and I'm coming with something a little bit different as I take a category of consideration of reviewing films and how they have a parody. They kind of shadow one another. They kind of fall into a symmetry. And this evening's first entry into that consideration is Way of the Dragon from 1972, the Bruce Lee starring and directed by film effort through his newly founded Concord Pictures. Yeah. And Shaw Brothers' Chinatown Kid, the 1977 classic starring Alexander Fushing. Yeah, you see, these two films, as my title for tonight's show suggests, told the stories of migrating kung fu experts. In Way of the Dragon, Bruce Lee's character, Tong Long, was migrating to Rome from Hong Kong, the countryside of Hong Kong, the New Territories as they called it at that time. So he was more of what they once called a country bumpkin. And when he arrived in Europe, in Rome, to help out a friend of the family, he found himself engulfed in circumstances where cultural differences, language differences were glaring. And it made for a difficult time, yet funny time of interaction and interplay. In Shaw Brothers' Chinatown Kid, we see Fu Xing's character being sent to the U.S., where he was dealing with circumstances because he, being pretty much a country bumpkin in Hong Kong, was fighting and in street fights to the degree that his uncle sent him to the U.S. for a different outlook, a better way of life. And being very poor, as they were in Hong Kong, he was hoping that the young Fuxing could make something of himself. And he found his experience in coming to the Western world a situation where everything that glitters isn't gold, huh? Yeah. So these two films I selected to talk about, like I said, having parity and similar qualities that channel one another. And what's very interesting is that neither of these films were remade. But given immigrant type circumstances and the difficulties that people who come from one particular area and find themselves, for whatever reason, in a new land and environment, it's very relatable. And I'm surprised that no one has decided to take up these stories and produce them for modern audiences. It's really an interesting aspect when you think about it. So that's this evening's show. We're talking about these two films. And as I take my time going through this, I want you to understand that there will not be any film clips or anything from the movies, but it's just a small conversation based on what they represented at the time that they were made, how audiences reacted to them, and the impact that such fare gave to audiences. You see, nowadays we take action films for granted. We see people fighting using martial arts, MMA, wrestling, judo, all types of what we now refer to as mixed martial arts to make up the action scenes for films. But back then, when these films were produced, Kung Fu was relatively new to the rest of the world. And had a core audience in China and Hong Kong specifically. A lot of the films were giving ratings that were close to rated R or rated X in some instances because of the violence, the hand-to-hand violence, sometimes using weapons, sometimes using the subtleties of being gratuitously physical. And when I say gratuitously, that means explicitly, just going for the bloodletting. Thankfully, Bruce Lee's films were not like that. And though director Chang Che with Shaw Brothers, a number of his films were like that, Chinatown Kid isn't as bloodletting as a lot of the fare that Shaw Brothers and Chang Che in particular as a director presented to audiences. But there are still some very violent scenes in the Chinatown Kid. We're talking about something that went over well with audiences at the time. So welcome, people. Smash the like button as you come into the building. We're multi-streaming across a couple of channels here. We've got it going on my Kung Fu channel, STORMYBMAN'S Kung Fu Temple and Entertainment channel. And also, we're multi-streaming over on Rumble. For those of you who hadn't had a chance to join me at Rumble, please sign up to Rumble and give us a little bit of support over there. We're trying to make it toward that 100 followers where I can just go live there on a consistent basis without having to deal with the interruptions that come through YouTube and Google from time to time. But we're just here to do our best to bring you the best of content, what I can do. Yeah. So just know this is how we operate here. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments to my stream because I already hear YouTube is trying to toy with my bit rates. There's a little bit of choppiness. I can hear it. I hear it, family. So let's start with Way of the Dragon, Bruce Lee's 1972 effort following on the success of Fist of Fury, which saw him shatter box office records. And it was the last film that he made for Golden Harvest Studios as he branched out and formed Concord Productions, where he would make his own films, produce, write, and direct. It's something that he had felt compelled to do because he wanted to bring a certain level of quality to his efforts as he assumed total control. Raymond Chow, who partnered with Lee from Golden Harvest Studios to be partners with him with Concord, would help Lee get his ideas out there. The independence that Lee sought was not just for fame. It was actually for the advancement of the quality of what he wanted to do. Therefore, Way of the Dragon was the first Hong Kong-made film shot in Rome in certain parts, and was the first time where you could see the effort was being made to just not have the heroes of the film battling against their own kind. In other words, Lee wanted to show that the Chinese could be just as good as the Europeans or the Western audiences, so he would incorporate European and Western fighters in his films, and also have his heroes show that they're just as bit as capable or as strong as anyone else in the world. This was very ambitious to do something like this at the time, because most of the Hong Kong films would see them fighting against fellow Asians, Japanese, Korean, and Mongolians and stuff like that. So this film being shot in Rome, having the heroic character interact with Romans or so-called Europeans and Westerners, it gave the Chinese audiences something different, and they had a appreciation for that. It was received very well. Let me go to, I had some reference material that I wanted to pull up for this. And I know that sometimes when I'm doing my streams, I want to say my laptop, the memory is not good on it. So let me see. Pull this up for you guys, because I'm gonna get some information and history for you as well. You know, Stormy B Man likes to come with the facts for you, not just giving you something for the sake of whatever. The Way of the Dragon, directed by, written, produced, starring, and choreographed by Bruce Lee, was released in Hong Kong on December 30th, 1972. The film was shot in original Cantonese language and dubbed for audiences. So there are moments of this story and how it's being told that for many who just saw the dubbed version of the film may not get the humor and may not get a full idea of what the communications were between the characters in the film. So watching it in its original language with subtitles is a best way to look and view this film. Lee is playing Tong Lun, which in Chinese means China Dragon, a character who is sent by his uncle to assist some Asian friends of family in Rome who are having difficulties dealing with Roman mafia trying to overtake their property and business, where Nora Mao, who has played in a number of Lee's films, she's playing Cheng Ching Hua, the owner of a Chinese restaurant in Rome, and she's encountering the strong-arm tactics of Roman mafia that wants to not only overtake her Chinese restaurant, but they want the property and everything as well. So she had written home to a family friend to please assist in her matters. Now, Tong Long arrives in Rome, where he didn't get really fulfilled in on the circumstances, but was told that Cheng Ching Hua would let him know what's going on when he arrived. So he speaks no Western or European English whatsoever. Only able to speak Chinese, he communicates with her. And when he arrives, she asks him, "Do you know what my problem is?" He says, "Oh, you can tell me later," because he's just arriving and everything. But he's like, "I'm sure I can help you." But when she looks at him, she's looking at him as his traditional Chinese suit, you know, with the cross buttons across the top and, you know, little soft shoes and everything, and his little short haircut. She's looking at him like, how can this guy help me? You know, I'm dealing with the mafia over here, you know. So she doesn't know that Tong Long is a martial arts expert and loves a good fight. And she finds this out in a roundabout way as things happen, but she's totally disappointed in he arriving to bring assistance to her situation. Now, The Chinatown Kid is a film. I'm pulling up my information here on this one. Made in 1977. This was shot in Mandarin by the Shaw Brothers Studios, directed by Chong Che, co-written by Chong Che and E. Kwan, and the martial art director of this film is Robert Tai and Lee Ka-ting. Produced by Run Run Shaw and Shaw Brothers Studios. Alexander Fuxing plays Tong Dong, a Chinese country bumpkin who is sent to America, San Francisco to be exact, after being a rebel rouser in Hong Kong. So he's coming there to kind of stay out of trouble. But he finds more trouble when he arrives in San Francisco because Tong Dong, who likes to fight like Lee's character Tong Long, he comes to America very fascinated by the tall buildings and the people who are bustling to and fro, and he just wants an opportunity to make it. There is a Chinese leader in the community who employs guys fresh off the boat, so to speak. And Tong Dong gets a job staying at this little restaurant where he washes dishes and everything, and he has boarding there, along with Korean Shaw Brothers star with kicking skills, Sun Chin, who's actually there to study from abroad. And they become friends. But Sun Chin, who's having trouble making his studies, ends up getting involved with the Chinatown mafia there, because they run rackets and deal drugs, and he becomes a drug addict because he was trying to use drugs to help him cope with school, studying late hours and so forth, so he was having difficulties. Fuxing is a guy, his Tong Dong character is kind of righteous, and he's always looking to help people out, and Fuxing has played that kind of character through a number of his films, and I think it's partly because Chinese audiences really received him well when he played in those type of roles, and he was convincing in those roles, being a bad boy of sorts, but a heroic bad boy. So the action in both Way of the Dragon and the Chinatown Kid has the heroes confronting the bad guys and kind of kicking them in their butt throughout the exchange of situations. This is where I say the two films kind of parry one another, and I do believe that Chong Che, E. Kwang, and Run Run Shaw, they did lift a little bit of Lee's Way of the Dragon. This is kind of like their take. Though they've changed certain story elements, the foundation of what this is all rooted in are quite similar. You take someone from Hong Kong or China and you put them in a new environment of the Western world or the European world, and they have to deal with difficulties with the foreigners, which the Chinese once called the Kwai Lo. It's very interesting because the Chinese had always been depicted very negatively in European and Western film. So to have these characters come out on top, as Bruce would say about describing Tong Long's plight in Way of the Dragon, was something that audiences weren't always accustomed to seeing. In fact, they weren't accustomed to seeing this at all. This is something that both films provided an element of inspiration for audiences that took in the films. I want to take a quick moment and acknowledge who we got in the chat here, because I know a lot of you may have been expecting like Nerds on Culture this evening and everything, but Nerds is not happening because the brother Drew Titan had some personal things to take care of, and I still wanted to bring you some content this evening, which is why I am producing a Kung Fu Film Focus. And it gave me a great opportunity to do so because I hadn't done one in a while. So alive. So thank you so much for tuning in. We got Columbia's out there saying Bruce Lee is still undefeated in 2026. Excuse me, stop me when I'm lying. Shogun 76. The real Shogun of Harlem is in the building this evening. Salute to you. Happy New Year and all that good stuff, because I hadn't talked to you. We'll see you in a minute. The Chinatown Kid was always one of my favorites. Yes, sir. Very good film. He says, I want some Chinese spare ribs. You ain't tell me you don't know what Chinese spare ribs are? But let me show you, man. One of the greatest lines in Kung Fu films. Yes, sir. Adrian Vid is out there as well. Over on Rumble, we got Jamal Davis in the building saying salute, peace, and blessings. And he says, smash the like button. And yeah, the choppiness is coming in and out. It's going to happen, guys, because they do this to me because they, this is another way of them attacking my channel. In my studio is saying that my stream is healthy, excellent. So it's beyond my control. It's them messing with me. Jamal, do me a favor, brother. You don't have to remind me, because I know. I listen to my own feedback in my ear here. I have my earpiece in so I can hear my playback. Every time the choppiness returns, I don't have to be reminded of it, brother, because I'm already aware. It's one of the reasons that I keep my earpiece in, okay? If I happen to lose audio or something like that, that's why I do that. And I'm watching. I've got several devices going with my own show live and the playback happening. So I'm very much aware of what's happening. So please bear with it. If it's disturbing you too much, you can follow YouTube and leave, because that's what they want you to do anyway. But if you're down with me, you can bear with it, because as you see, it clears up. They only do this because they want people to leave my stream. I shouldn't have to say that all the time, but when you guys are constantly reminding me, oh, it's breaking up again. Oh, it's back. I know this already. Okay? So stop it, because I get off track. Okay? And I lose my spot from what I'm talking about and why I'm on the air. I'm doing this come what may. These people 2 years ago, they took my monetization from me, and I'm still producing content for you guys because I got a lot to give, huh? Give a little bit back to Stormy B-Man by supporting him, by going against them, by hanging tight with me and digging down deep with me. and don't leave me because they're doing these things to mess with my channels. Huh? Do something like what I've requested and say, hey, man, we're going to go over here to Rumble, where they don't do that over there. As soon as I get 100 followers over there, you won't even see me doing these lives here because I already know what the game is. I haven't sold out. I haven't given in to these people. And this is the only thing they can do to me. I'm not breaking any bylaws. They tried to give me copyrights on music that was licensed to use as a third-party app in conjunction with YouTube. They kept sending me these things, trying to make it like I'm doing something wrong, and I was not. By providing legalese paperwork to tell them exactly what I was doing, they have to release those copyrights against me. So the last thing they're going to do is mess with my audio. When my stream is telling me my stream health is excellent, you don't see the picture messing up. You don't hear nothing but a choppiness in the audio because that's all they can do. Do you hear those guys that's over there talking against the LDBC? Do you hear them getting choppy? Do you hear those guys that are over there talking about us, going against us, being choppy? No. This is by design. So here it is. I'm spending 5 minutes of revealing information that you already freaking know. You know it already. Because this ain't new. This is something that they've been doing for the past month and a half. But it hasn't stopped me from producing the content. I was talking to my brother Trick Noty earlier. We got on the subject of Kung Fu movies. And we ended up talking about Chinatown Kid, which is one of his favorites. And I gave him a little bit of history of the film, and I explained to him how this film was so much like Bruce Lee's Way of the Dragon that I consider them companion piece films. And I said, that's a great idea. I think I'll do a live on that. Just like that. Just like that stemmed from my conversation with Trick Noty. Shout out to him. He may be out there listening right now. I know he works in the evening. He may be coming in or out or whatever, or joining late or something. But he could tell you, he could verify. Just a couple of hours ago, I was talking to him on the phone. And that's how I did this show. You see? It's that simple. That's how Stormy B-Man produced content. Right off the bat, right off the cuff. I don't need to copy nobody else. I don't need to go and see, let me see what somebody doing and let me do my take on it. I don't do that kind of foolishness. I am genuine with what I do out here. And I try to show it to you guys because I don't play about my live streams. I don't play about the content I produce. That's why I have no tolerance for the foolishness that could try to come in the door. Because we only have a limited amount of time to get these things off. It's why if you see I get very upset about the distractions. Because that's all that is at the end of the day. What if you're spending so much time on a distraction that you lose your life in that moment? You just drop dead. The air leaves your body. You will have dropped dead over foolishness instead of getting the last bit of what you have to offer out into the universe. I have come on these streams. I've been sick. I've been not feeling my best. I deal with certain illnesses and everything, but I try to bring it and take it to the max each and every time out. And I can't get people to do the simple thing like smash the like button. I'm not shaking y'all down for money. I ask for you to like and share the content. I can't even get you guys to do that. But you be out here listening by the hundreds. This past weekend, I had over 1,000 people watching my 2 post-fight shows. But not 100 likes. Over 1,000 people? Why are you watching this channel if you can't hit the thumbs up? I don't understand that. I am nowhere watching content that I can't support. And I go into some of the family's chat and I hit the like button, I make comments, sometimes I crack jokes in the chat and everything, and they don't even acknowledge me. You guys don't have any idea how that can make you feel as a person. But my resolve is stronger than that because guess what? I ain't quit yet. I'm still doing what I do. Yes, sometimes I can get upset and just kill the live. You know why? Because I'm not going to be on here misbehaving and misrepresenting myself. But I'm going to say what I feel. And you're going to know about it as well. That's about as real as it can get. And I ain't going nowhere when it comes to the LDBC. I'm here. LDBC strong. But I'm different. I'm a little older. And for as long as I'm able to do this, I'm going to be kicking ass doing it. And it ain't nobody out there that can do this like I do it. Especially when it comes to this Kung Fu movie talk or even boxing talk. It's like that. Chinatown Kid was released in Hong Kong on December 2nd, 1977. It doesn't have an alternate title. It's always been known as the Chinatown Kid. It has a couple of aliases in Chinese, which I don't read Chinese, so I can't tell you what that says, but its broadest scale title has always been known as the Chinatown Kid. The film has a running time of 120 minutes. There's a couple of cuts of this film. I think one is like 80 minutes or close to 90 minutes. And that one has left out a lot of violence as well as some exposition scenes that will take you through the process of Fu Xing's character, Tong Dong. Fu Xing was a great actor and martial arts film star. His life was cut short in 1983 as he perished in a car accident. And he was only 28 years of age when he passed away. But he was one of the most popular actors in Hong Kong. To go back into his story, after getting in trouble with both the Hong Kong police and the local crime syndicate, he heads to San Francisco to hide out and lead a normal life. Upon his arrival, he gets a job at a Chinatown restaurant where he befriends a co-worker named Yang Jin-Wen, played by Sun Chin, the Korean kicker and martial artist that's famous for being a part of the Venom's clan, who's a student from Taiwan. Tong Dong, like I said, his character is a righteous guy. So he fights bullies and he beats up on people, but it's only to kind of stand up for the weak. Soon his troubled past from Hong Kong follows him to San Francisco, as the guys that he was into it with in Hong Kong, they have connections in San Francisco. And he crossed paths with one of the gang leaders, played by Wang Leng-wei, who is pretty darn good in the villain role. You've seen him in many Shaw Brothers films. But what attracts Fu Xing's character Tong Dong to Wang Leng-wei's character is he has a digital watch. And Tong Dong is fascinated with digital watches. And so Wang Leng-wei tells him, he says, like, if you can beat me in a fight, you can have this watch. And Fu Xing's character is like, oh, no problem. You know, I can whoop you. It's no problem. He's very confident, even though he's a young guy. He's like, I think in this film, he's playing like 18, 19 years old or something like that. And Wang Leng-wei is in his like late 20s or something. Well, they get into a fight. And, of course, he kicks Wang Leng-wei's butt. But the cops come, and he can't stay in the fight, so he has to run because the cops came. But Wang Leng-wei stepped on the watch and broke it. So Fu Xing was mad about that. Anyway, that's not the only time they meet up in the film. And like I said, Sun Chen's character gets involved in drugs. And when he finds out that Fu Xing finds out his buddy is on drugs, he wants to ask him, like, who are these drug dealers? Where are you getting the drugs from? That's when he finds out that it's Wang Leng-wei who is doing the dirty work. But then there's another Chinatown mafia muscle man, literally, played by Lo Mang. Now, Lo Mang, he's the head of the Dragon Gang. They practice karate and all of that in San Francisco, but they are rivals of Wang Lung Wei's gang. So the elements of Way of the Dragon are in this film, but also the elements of A Fistful of Dollars. Because Fu Xing's character is caught in the middle of these two gangs, and both of them want to use his skills and talents because he can really throw down. And because they're in San Francisco, they don't want to use guns too much, but they will. But that's like a last resort type of thing. There's even a scene where they shoot up one of the rival gangs' lairs, hideouts with guns, but they know that, you know, the police will be drawn to their attention in that type of activity. So that's why it's a lot of fist fighting in the film. Fu Xing is a character in this film, man. He's like taking on helping one of the gangs, and then they have this woman. She's like a seductress. They pass the Lo Mang, who's a leader in the gang, but his boss is played by what's his name? Ko Shu from the Five Venoms. And they try to tell this girl to be with Fu Xing's character because, you know, the female can kind of seduce him and have him do what the gang want him to do and stuff like that. But he really has eyes for a different girl, and that girl is played by his real life wife, Jenny, the famous Hong Kong singer. So it's like the movie is really good, man. And Chinatown Kid was a real solid effort by Shaw Brothers Studios. The only problem that I saw with this film was when they had the scenes where it's supposed to be outdoors, San Francisco, you could tell it's the Shaw Brothers backlot set, right? So the lighting and though Shaw has wonderful sets, it's just that you could tell it's not really San Francisco. That's the only thing. But outside of that, the movie is pretty darn good, man. It's pretty darn good. Mr. Shelton, what's good with you? Universal Truth, I see you out there. Adrian Viet. Yeah. So the movie has these elements that are pretty fun. And if anybody watches this film, watch the long version of it. Don't watch the short version. Yeah. But I really like the two films, Way of the Dragon and Chinatown Kid, both for similar reasons. Way of the Dragon is not my favorite Bruce Lee film, but I have to give him credit for it being his first and only directorial debut. He was able to do a lot with that film. It's possible that being a director was probably Bruce Lee's calling, even more so than fighting in the films as a martial artist or whatever. It's because of the way he had an innovative mind, and he was just getting ready to get started putting that into effect. It would have been very interesting to see what he would have done with Game of Death, because that was going to be his second film produced by Concord Studios, written and directed by himself, starring a bunch of athletes and real life fighting men that he could direct because he wanted realism in his fight scenes. That would have been amazing for them to do that. As I read the reviews on Chinatown Kid, it said that it had been compared to Brian De Palma's Scarface, which came out in '83. And I wouldn't disagree with that. It's really a film that stands on its own. For the time that it was made, 1977, Scarface came out in '83. I wouldn't be surprised if they took elements of Chinatown Kid and put it in Scarface. It's that great, you know? And the standout thing about Bruce Lee and Way of the Dragon is his famous battle scene in the Roman Colosseum against Chuck Norris. And as Jamal Davis says, he says, I love the scene with Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris. That was Bruce Lee at his best. A realized fight scene between he and another true martial artist. And you see how the choreography played out between these two men. It was an amazing fight scene. It has stood the test of time for over 50 years as one of the greatest martial arts fight scenes of all time. Two men going at it hand to hand. It has pauses, which were very important. In fact, pauses didn't come into play until Bruce Lee came along. You would usually see a martial art film fight scene go on for minutes and minutes and minutes nonstop until one of the assailants would fall dead or be killed or whatever. So that's what you would see. But Bruce would put moments of pause in between the action with camera spans and close-ups and pullbacks and things of that nature to give the audience an opportunity to rest and relax at what you're seeing, because he believed that all of that run-on fight sequence, you get tired. It's mental fatigue that sets in, and you kind of lose the audience in the sensational action. But if you have a moment where the audience can catch their breath, then they can catch up to the action. And that was something that he incorporated in Kung Fu fight choreography that many other choreographers would pick up on later. Sammo Hung is probably the best because he worked in close proximity with Bruce at Golden Harvest Studios. So he had a chance to see firsthand, studying Bruce Lee's edits, his cuts, and everything. And if you look at fight films that he's made, like The Prodigal Son or Warriors 2 and films like that, he took elements of what Bruce did in fight scenes and he took it to a different level for sheer Hong Kong action. Not imitating Bruce, but utilizing the elements of what Bruce would do incorporated in choreography. He would incorporate that in his choreography, and it worked well. A lot of the films that we saw with acrobatics and sensational choreography, sometimes, again, the audience can be taken out. Because, first of all, it's okay to see superheroic feats on film, but it shouldn't live in that realm. If films live in that realm, audiences will check out, which is like something that Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, once said in an interview when he was talking about his film Rapid Fire. If you have a fight sequence or using guns or something, if a guy is spraying a gun at a guy and the guy is ducking behind furniture or behind a car or something like that and he's not getting hit with any shells, he was like, you do that too many times, you're going to lose me as a person in the audience. So you have to find a way to be more innovative with that. And he was correct in saying that. And that's what his dad did with his choreography. I always felt that when Bruce choreographed fight scenes, he always saved the best stuff for himself and then had the other guys do other stuff that he creatively would produce for them. But he would save the best for himself because he knew how to show off. And he was a real showman when it came to that kind of thing. In the Chinatown Kid, the fight scenes are a lot different. And you get a chance to see Fu Xing doing his thing. But it's based in that Robert Tai choreography. And there's not a lot of where you get to see Fu Xing really get down and dirty with choreography. But I believe that Fu Xing would have been dynamic had he been choreographed by the likes of Sammo Hung or even Yuan Wu Ping, who took over on the flip side of what Sammo was doing, or even Bruce Liang, because Bruce Liang would also choreograph films, fight scenes with great action, great moves. Robert Tai came along a little late doing some great stuff too. So there have been some great choreographers for Kung Fu films, and the best have always made the real martial artists look superhuman. So it's something to consider when you see that. You know what I mean? So I love these films, man. And when you talk about Chinatown Kid or Way of the Dragon, both films have elements that are similar to one another. But they both star two legends from the film genre, Fu Xing and Bruce Lee. Anytime you see those two men on screen, you're going to see something pretty good. I really like and admire the work that they brought to the genre. And these two films that they did, like I said, they kind of go down the same path. They're different stories. They're not repeated elements of stories with one another. But that whole idea about the migrant going into a new place, a new world, where they're unfamiliar with everything and trying to make an adjustment just to get along in that environment and having to fight their way through. That's what's up. And that's how you make a circumstance that will call for the fight scenes to take place. You see, Bruce Lee, in Way of the Dragon, there was a gun. Remember that guy that came to his apartment where he and Nora Mao was coming back? And they opened the door and the dude was like, "The boss wants to see ya." It's like, he's sitting there in the dark with a pistol, like, "The boss wants to see ya." Man, Bruce jacked that dude up. That's some of my favorite stuff. Yeah. And where'd he find them two brothers at, huh? In Rome. If Bruce Lee had them two brothers, man, that he beat up in the alley. One of them looked like Samuel L. Jackson. The other one looked like Joe Frazier or something. I don't know, man. Bruce Lee was putting everybody in his movies. "Hey, man, you all should have left this restaurant." It's like, man. I can't help but laugh at it, man. This shit was funny as hell, man. It's like 50 years later. It's still funny, man. Oh my goodness. You gotta love kung fu movies, man. I'm telling you. It's like, man. The other brother didn't even talk either. They didn't even have him. He didn't have no dialogue. And they only played in the scene for a couple of minutes. They didn't have them brothers in there. It was just a restaurant scene, right? They wasn't in the movie and in the fight in the alley. They didn't have them back. Them brothers must have broke out. They say that Chinese dude is too damn rough for me. I ain't going back. They left the boss gang. But the rest of them dudes was hanging out in the boss's office till he called Chuck Norris in. Man. But yeah, these two films, I recommend them, man. Big time. Chinatown Kid, Way of the Dragon. That's good stuff. That's about as good as you could get with a kung fu film, to be perfectly honest with you. It's about as good as you can get. Yeah. But I'm going to do another Kung Fu film focus. I'm going to try to find another one of the independent films to present to you guys, because it's easy to go through the Shaw's catalog. I've told you guys this countless times. I try to present certain films that deserve a certain amount of spotlight, but at the same time, I like to take a lot of the independent films and put them out into the forefront, because Shaw's and Golden Harvest, they pretty much dominated throughout the 70s. But there are some other films that people need to be turned on to. So just know that, I'm going to do my best with that. Continue to bring some of the films that have the best type of, action and choreography and stories. Plot elements are important as well. So with that being said, man, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. It's been an hour for me doing this, and I appreciate any and everybody that came in and checked me out. So, shout out to the mighty LDBC, and you guys can catch me on the next one. Thank you for tuning in.